Oh, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, Facebook normally gives me a countdown, but it didn't today. Welcome to vlog 11 of my 90-day vlog challenge. It is, of course, Melissa Johnson speaking. I am the principal psychologist and the director of Thriving Mind Psychology Clinic located here on the beautiful Sunshine Coast. And yes, we had another gorgeous day today. It was hot and humid, but it was beautiful. I absolutely love the humidity. And I love a good storm, which was threatening to happen, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I am sitting at the front of my house, and of course all my neighbours are wondering what I'm up to, and they've all magically decided to come out and do some gardening. So today I am talking about what to expect on your first session with your psychologist. And the reason why I'm really talking about this today is because, one, it is Mental Health Week, so I really wanted to use this week to help obviously reduce the stigma, because that is what this is all about. But I really wanted to also demystify psychology and help reduce some of the anxiety that might be experienced when people come along to see a psychologist, particularly in that first session. I certainly do find that many of my clients are really quite anxious in their first session. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they just don't really know what to expect, and they don't really know what it's all about. And of course we watch lots of TV shows that, you know, maybe are based in America and might not necessarily be the true representation of what happens here. So what to expect in your first session with your psychologist? Well, firstly, this is just going to be a bit of a general overview, because obviously every psychologist does things a little bit differently. Every clinic does things a little bit differently. And I can really only speak to what it is that I do in my clinic, or my experiences of working in other clinics. And of course, even for me, it's going to change day to day depending on the client and depending on what's happening for me. So it's a bit of a general overview. So generally for first appointments, I ask my clients to come along about 5 to 10 minutes early, because there is of course some paperwork to complete. And they will receive that paperwork. And what is in that paperwork is a few different documents. The first one is generally a document that will just get some data and information from you. So that would be probably called like a client details form. And that's where we make sure that we have all the right information for you, your phone number, your contact details, your address, and all of those sort of things. The next form that I give my clients is called, it's about your privacy and confidentiality. So it's a 2-page document, mine is. It could look a little bit differently for everybody else, but it really goes through in detail information about your privacy. It gets your consent. It talks about when privacy might be, it talks about confidentiality and privacy and when that might need to be breached. And also talks about how you can access your documentation, all of that sort of information. So it's quite a detailed form. And you need to read through that, and please, if you have any questions, always make sure you talk to your psychologist about that. The next lot of forms that I use are actually some baseline measures. And what I mean by that is I use 2 different baseline measures, and they are just some questionnaires. The first one is called a K10, and that's a Keshler Distress Scale. It's just 10 questions that it will ask you to sort of rate over the last few weeks. And the other form I use is called a DAS-21, and that stands for a Depression, Anxiety and Stress Scale. So again, that's 21 questions. Sometimes you might see a 42 question version, but I use the short form, which is 21 questions. And it will ask you lots of different questions, and basically it will give us a bit of a rating on depression, anxiety and stress. So that's a wonderful sort of tool that we use as a baseline. So we use that generally in our first session. And then again, maybe down the track, whether it's in our 6th session or our final session, we might implement and use those forms again. And it serves as a really nice measure to be able to compare. So psychologists often like to use quantitative and qualitative measures. And what that means is we use measures that we can objectively use. So that might be what you report and what we see and what we talk about. And we also use measures, it's a little bit windy. We also use measures that actually can be measured, and we can compare. So that's sort of what these questionnaires are. And between the two of those, it really gives us a good assessment and good idea of how your progress is going and how you might be feeling and what might be working and what might not be working. So that is all the paperwork that you might be asked to fill out. You might be asked to fill out other paperwork, but that's generally a bit of an idea of what you can expect paperwork-wise. And tomorrow I am going to actually go into a little bit more detail around privacy and confidentiality and how that all works. So if you've ever wondered whether your information or what you talk about with your psychologist is kept confidential, then make sure you do watch tomorrow, because there's some interesting information that will happen in vlog number 12. So after you filled out all the paperwork, the next step is obviously to meet your psychologist. So usually what would happen is I will pop out and I'll introduce myself, and we'll go on down to the therapy room. And we'll sit down, and I will obviously, introduce myself and make sure that you've understood your paperwork. And then I'll spend about, 10 to 15 minutes really going through all that housekeeping. So I will talk about how long sessions go for and what to expect. I will explain the privacy, confidentiality. I will explain fees, I will explain cancellation policies, and all of that sort of general information that is really important for you to understand when you are seeing a psychologist. After that time, I guess by that stage, I also often tell my clients to actually please don't expect too much in the first session, because really by the time we go through that housekeeping and then you have some time to talk about what's going on for you, we really don't have a whole lot of time. So generally what I say is it's a really good time to just collate some data, talk about what's going on, talk about your expectations, and then we can formulate a bit of a plan, a treatment plan together from there. So after that general housekeeping, you will probably get a chance then to talk about what it is that's bothering you, what it is that's bringing you, what you're coming along for, and really what it is that you're hoping to achieve or get out of coming along to see your psychologist. Because of course that is really important. Actually, why are you coming? What do you want to get out of coming along? That really helps to formulate a treatment plan. Your psychologist might also ask you about some symptomology that you're experiencing. They might also do a little bit of an assessment around what is some history. So they might ask you questions around, have you experienced this before? Have you had a mental health diagnosis before? And if so, have you had any treatment, and whether that's been helpful or not? We might also talk about your history, so whether there's a family history of mental illness, and other things like, are you using any drugs? Are you using any alcohol? And just get a sense of your overall general lifestyle and your overall general well-being. Sometimes that doesn't all happen in the first session. Sometimes that sort of information is discussed throughout the next follow-on sessions. And then towards the end of the session, you'll probably sit with your psychologist and they'll probably explain to you how it is that they can help you. They might talk to you about different therapies, and really come and formulate a good treatment plan together. And then from there you can book your further sessions and have a good idea of what it is that you can expect. So there you go. That is my very brief and very general overview of what you can expect in your first session. So really it's just about collecting data, talking about some presenting symptoms, things that have been going on for you, and learning a little bit about each other and coming up with a good treatment plan that you can both work on together. So please, it's nothing really to be too anxious about. Of course, it is always scary when you're doing something new, but it really is generally the hardest step. So taking that first step, seeking out and getting some assistance tends to be the hardest. Most of the time, by the end of the session, my clients say, well, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, which is good. And it's just about taking that step and reaching out. If you really are thinking about seeing a psychologist, please go and talk to someone about it. Please talk to your GP about it. Please give me a call about it. I'm more than happy to help. And if you're not in the Sunshine Coast, I'm happy to link you up with a psychologist elsewhere in Australia. I know some amazing psychologists all over Australia, and I can certainly help with that. So if you have liked this vlog today, or you found it helpful, please do like or love. And of course, if you know someone that might benefit or might be interested, please do feel free to share it. By liking and loving is really the only way I know whether you have found these vlogs helpful, and it just gives me some direction of what to vlog about in future and what people are responding to and what they like. So that is it for me today. I will see you again tomorrow for vlog number 12. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you all for watching. And as always, don't forget, there's never been a better day than today to take the steps to have your thriving mind and your thriving life. Bye for now.